This is a movie with graphic nudity of the very, very worst kind. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is a review for the artsy-fartsy Oscar bid film Nocturnal Animals, which everyone is raving about, and I didn't think was that great. And one of the reasons is, as I mentioned before, there is a lot of gratuitous nudity in this film, particularly in the beginning. And, I mean, it starts out with three very large, very large ladies dancing in the buff as an art exhibition. And it's so been done at this point that I have to point out that it's been done. So I'm taking that is not art at this point. It's very old hat. It's nothing new. I don't care about it. It may be based on something. I know that Nocturnal Animals started as a book, but we're going to take that show of massiveness of women who remind me of my sister dancing naked, and just understand that that is something that I disliked about the film. It just, in the beginning I was like, bad memories. And after that I just had to tune out of that. So look at the rest of this film, and that art exhibition at the beginning really had almost nothing to do with the rest of the film, so I have to point that out. Now, Nocturnal Animals is the story of a woman played by Amy Adams, who is in a failing marriage. It's a very, very done plot, and her story goes into two directions. There's the story of how she met her ex-husband and how their marriage fell apart. The story of how her current life basically sucks, and that's her story. And then there is where our story begins, which is her ex-husband sending her a novel entitled Nocturnal Animals. And of course, you know, Nocturnal Animal was something that he used to call her. So he's saying, you're a nocturnal animal. So it's basically this novel, it's set up that this novel is a metaphor for their relationship, and it is a very dark, very sad, very unpleasant novel. Personally, looking at the writing there, if it was not a story within a story, I would have to say that, you know, I mean, nobody would mistake those things for real life. There are basic problems there that come up and are very blatant. But Jake Gyllenhaal, who plays both the author and the main character in the story within the story, he does an excellent job. You really believe him. I mean, the attempt is worthwhile. The problem I have is it's not very well written. In fact, I watched this movie in theaters, and at the end, I remember I waited till the credits were over. I stood up, and there were two ladies in front of me who turned to each other, and they just didn't understand what the point of the last scene was. And I remember explaining it to them, and they looked at me and they said, "Oh, yeah." And that's one of those things, is that I did not see a lot of artistry in this film. I understood it right away. I knew what it was going for. Basically, if you want me to sum up the artistic point, it says that abortion is murder. And you can agree with that, you can disagree with that. I don't have the right to disagree with that or agree with that in this video, because this is a video about the piece of art, not about what the piece of art stands for. It's just, it's so far in the background, but it's so clearly that's what this is about. And I mean, you'll miss it if you don't understand the whole thing, but that's the artistic message. So really, when I looked at this, it felt to me like originally Nocturnal Animals was supposed to be the story that is within the story, and then the author ran out of things to write in that story, or didn't want to do enough research, so then turned to a secondary story, which was about the failed marriage, and then didn't have enough to write there, so he or whoever wrote about the failed marriage before the failed marriage, which inspired the story of Nocturnal Animals. Or it could have happened in a different order, where the guy wrote the original story within the story, then wrote the marriage failed story within the story, and then again, because there just wasn't enough there to make up a full-length novel, added in the new failed marriage. So again, when I look at this, I mean, it's an Oscar bait movie. It's supposed to be an art film. It's really hard to judge art films. And I mean, there is the graphic nudity at the beginning. There's even a scene where, you know, like the lady calls her daughter and the camera is just zoomed in on the daughter's rear end. You see the full intergluteal cleft, and it doesn't look like that's really her daughter. I guess the daughter's college age and off, and it's her and her boyfriend, but it's such a gratuitous nudity scene. You don't see a character emerge there. You don't know what to feel about that character. It's just there to throw some nudity at you, and I didn't personally care for that. Again, this could be an art film. You could view it from the standpoint of don't judge art, but understand as an art film, it is a very ugly story. It is a story that's meant to make you feel uncomfortable. I was looking at my watch going, when is this thing going to end? I don't want to watch any more of it. I know what's going to happen next, and I don't care. Again, a lot of people love this movie. And if you love this movie, more power to you. Just understand that if you're not into movies with their huge dancing fat chicks, a very dark storyline, and a concept of very personal justice, Nocturnal Animals is not going to be for you. On the other hand, if you're kind of that fan, if you were the person that you loved movies like the original Saw, perhaps, which had all the gore off camera, but it definitely happened, and you kind of enjoy the modern day PG-13 slashers where you know bad stuff happens, but you don't get to see it. This is kind of that movie for you. It could have been a horror movie if it went a different direction, but it goes the direction of the horror movie with all that appearing off camera, which is not a bad choice. It's just what appears on camera I'm not satisfied with. I didn't care for the actions of this movie. I felt it was too written, too much about something that was written and artificial and couldn't happen in real life. I mean, again, I probably should post a separate analysis video. I may do that. But my thing is, if you're not into dark movies, don't see this movie. If you're into dark movies, they're just your thing, you will definitely love this film. That's my 50 cents on the matter. I'd love to hear yours in the comments down below. I'm Richard Neal.